This is part 3 of my Mandela Effect link series, and it's the final video. Just a forewarning, I expect this video to upset a fair amount of people. The evidence I'm about to present for the catalyst of my theory is not really the most pleasant thing to hear. It's a lot easier to go into denial mode and leave a nasty comment rather than accepting what's happening. However, if you can, I would encourage everyone to keep an open mind. The only reason I'm sharing this is to give people a chance to prepare themselves spiritually for the coming years. And keep in mind too, this catalyst, which I will be discussing, isn't going to be something that you will experience anytime soon. Most likely it will be a slow process and probably years, if not decades, before it becomes something that no one will be able to deny, because the evidence will literally be right in front of people's faces. So, bearing that in mind, this is certainly not fear porn. It's just one element of the many aspects for my theory of what may be causing the Mandela effect. Nothing more, nothing less. So, before I go any further, I would encourage everyone, if you haven't already, watch part 1 and part 2 of my Mandela Effect link series. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2 for the series, I'll go ahead and leave a link below. But yeah, if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, this video may not make much sense to you. So in part 1, I discussed all the recent changes happening in our solar system, like global warming on Mars, Pluto, global warming on Neptune's biggest moon, the recent 130% increase in the sun's magnetic field, changes in Earth's magnetic field, the Schumann resonance becoming increasingly erratic over the past 20 years, the fact that Pluto is experiencing a 300% increase in atmospheric pressure, even when it's moving further away from the sun. And the list goes on and on. Venus is experiencing a 2,500% increase in brightness. It just goes on and on. And that's just what mainstream science is willing to admit. Like, all this is no secret. Just Google it. And again, definitely watch part 1 for a more detailed list of planetary changes. Part 2 goes into my Mandela effect theory of how the erratic Schumann resonance of Earth is affecting us by altering the electromagnetic field, which in turn directly impacts our brain waves and how we see reality itself. And if you didn't know already, the Schumann resonance, it's the electromagnetic field that surrounds Earth. It's like a big bubble that surrounds it. It goes to the edge of the Earth's ionosphere and is composed of electromagnetic waves made up of electrons and ionized atoms. What does the Schumann resonance have to do with the Mandela effect? Well, folks, there is no separation between the Schumann resonance and our brain waves. Our brain waves, they literally synchronize with the Schumann resonance. And I know I used this quote in part 2, but real quick, I'm just going to reread it for those who have not seen part 2. Quote, "At the root of all thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is the communication between neurons within our brains. Brainwaves are produced by synchronized electrical pulses from masses of neurons communicating with each other. Brainwaves are best thought of as a continuous spectrum of consciousness, from slow, loud, and functional to fast, subtle, and complex." Unquote. When we dream, our brainwaves literally switch from alpha brainwaves to theta brainwaves, and we enter a totally new reality or what some would call a dream world. Specific bands of brain waves are directly associated with our awareness as well as our memory. Quote, and this is one of the last quotes I'm going to reread from part 2. We are bathed in a sea of natural low-frequency electromagnetic EM fields from conception to death. The brain is an electromagnetic system synchronized by the Schumann resonance signal that continuously stabilizes the brain wave activity. The frequencies of EEG brain waves coincide with the range of Schumann resonance activity. Blackman established that external electromagnetic ELF signals induce altered neuron calcium ion effluxes in brain tissue. Stable synchronizing of the brain's electromagnetic systems underpins thinking, emotion, memory, and intelligence. Significantly, the hippocampal wave, which exerts a decisive influence on brain function and long-term memory, shares the same frequency as the primary Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz. Unquote. And that quote was from a peer-reviewed study by Miller, published in the Journal of Consciousness and Exploration and Research in 2013, by the way. It's our brain waves, or our brainwave state, that allows us to see the Mandela Effect changes. If our brain waves change, our perception, our reality changes. Again, when we dream, our brain waves literally switch from alpha brain waves to theta brain waves, and we enter a totally new reality. And there is no separating the observed from the observer, whether we're awake or asleep. The altering of brain waves automatically transports us, if that's the right word, it transports us to another reality. And they say, when you're dreaming, if you want to become lucid in that dream, you should look at a clock or look at written text and see if the text looks off. Well, what's happening now? A lot of people in the ME community are seeing weird things going on with clocks. We're seeing 1111 and other double digits. The letters of countless logos are starting to morph and look off. People, we have no idea what a dream really is or how it even works. We think just because we slap a label on it and call it a dream that we got it all figured out. But really, we don't truly know everything about dreams. And I hate to even call it a dream, because by calling it that, it makes our minds just dismiss it. A more accurate name for it would be an alteration in one's brain waves that results in one finding themselves in a new world, timeline, and or reality. And dreams can occur on both an individual and a group level, by the way, since there have been cases where a group of people will have the exact same dream at the exact same time, and in essence even interact with each other within that dream. If you don't believe me, you can just Google it. I mean, after all, dreams don't take up any space. It's empty space. And science has said time and time again that our physical world is made up of 99.9999% empty space. Am I saying that all dreams are as real as this reality? No, not necessarily. I'm saying that we need to acknowledge that we don't really know everything about what exactly dreams really are. Reality is perception. Perception is reality. It's impossible to separate the observed from the observer. It's impossible to separate the observer from the observed. I'll say it again. This is already been proven with the research of Dr. Robert Lanza and many other studies. And for those of you who believe beyond a shadow of the doubt that the ME is all the doing of CERN, I will say this. I don't claim to know all the answers, but I think if the Mandela effect were caused by only CERN, just, flipping a switch and doing their experiments, then the majority of people would be experiencing the same patterns of ear ringing and ME changes at the exact same time. And the ear ringing, by the way, is just shifting going on in our frequencies as it tunes into the Schumann resonance. It's nothing to get freaked out about. It's very obvious that when you look at CERN's fake rituals and the Bond number 1 guy that they put on camera, that they want us to believe it's only them. And, they may be able to manipulate the electromagnetic field in a limited way and make some changes to the Bible to feed into the whole public mass hysteria. But their technology does not trump the entire frequency of the Schumann resonance of the entire planet that is evolving. We have to stop and ask ourselves, why is the CERN agenda being pushed so hard on YouTube as the only definitive answer of the ME? They know that where there is fear, there is control. So, what's causing people to see the Mandela effect? It's the changes in people's brainwaves. What is altering our brainwaves? The electromagnetic field changing. What is changing the electromagnetic field? The Earth's Schumann resonance. Now, what is changing the Schumann resonance? What is the catalyst that is causing so many changes in our solar system? Specifically, what is causing the 130% increase in the sun's magnetic field and causing erratic activity in the Schumann resonance, which is, and I'll say it again, directly linked to our brainwaves and perception of reality. What could that catalyst be? What could be the catalyst for all that? I mean, the indigenous Inuits have publicly said that the earth is now tilted. These are tribal people who have used the position of the sun and the stars to hunt for food their whole lives. If they say something is off with the sun and stars, I'm going to believe them. Mainstream science even acknowledges that the earth is now tilted. In addition to earth tilting, mainstream science also admits that other things are tilting, like our sun, Mars, the solar system itself. What external force could be doing this? To answer these questions, I want you to watch this short video clip.
Third week of March 2017. Back in September of 2015, some of you may recall this story and video capture of what they called the mystery planet floating above the sun. The short video clip, which was posted on YouTube, was believed to have been taken in Florida and apparently was showing a huge, brightly shining planet-like object in the sky as the sun was setting. The sky watcher zeroes in on the unusual orb, and then the camera focuses on what is unmistakably the moon on the other side of the sky. The camera then pans back across to the sun, and the brilliantly bright orb is still there, just above and to the left of the sun. The video was viewed tens of thousands of times on YouTube, but still today there is no explanation of what the planet is or how it could have appeared. Commenters on the site gave various explanations for this sighting, the usual litany of "this is what it is," without providing any evidence to substantiate their claims. Whether in support or in denial of the strange sighting in the sky, there is obviously something very strange and still unexplained about what's appearing in the skies all over the world. So here is the short video clip. Watch and listen carefully to what the sky observer has to say.
Okay, so here I am out here in September, and as you can see, there's obviously a really very clear planet that is right north of the sun. And wow, I would love to say it was the moon, but since the moon happens to be right here on the opposite side, there's no way it is. And since we all have been taught in school that Mercury and Venus do not show up, oh, just look at that planet just beaming and shining right now. Somebody tell me what it is.
You may be amazed at this, just as this person was, or maybe not. What we see and what we believe to be real is and always will be in the eyes of the beholder. So here we are in 2017, and what do we see? The sky anomalies continue to increase. Our weather is more extreme than it has ever been. The crust of the earth continues to warm, causing ever-increasing volcanic activity. Even those that have been dormant for hundreds, even thousands of years, are suddenly roaring to life. The earth is opening, causing massive fissures to spread across the land. We know that all of these events are happening on a grand scale. What we don't know for certainty is what lies at the wake of these momentous events. Why are all of these sudden changes taking place at this time? Why is it that no one seems to have a real answer that can be accepted by both the scientific and the religious communities? I've mentioned on numerous occasions that the surest and most convincing way to determine if something ominous is approaching the Earth is to continue observing the numbers and the severity of seismic and volcanic events. The more violent they may be and the higher the frequency of occurrence, this will be an indicator on whether there is an outside influence that is disturbing the magnetic core of our Earth, and thus causing a collapse of the magnetosphere and the protective shield that surrounds our planet. If there is such a force, it will create a tilt of the Earth's axis, thus creating a wobbling effect, which will lead to odd weather patterns around the globe, such as what we saw this winter in places like the southern Mediterranean islands, the Arabian Desert, and in New Zealand, where record amounts of snow were recorded. If we are to accept that global warming is real, then we must determine if the change in climate conditions is the result of man-made polluting of the air, chemtrailing, and various forms of weather manipulation, or whether there is an outside force at work causing these sudden and drastic changes to occur. There is another more important matter that is weighing on the minds of many scientists at this time, and that has to do with mass extinction. With the sudden surge in extreme weather and violent earth changes, there is a growing consensus that the earth is spiraling out of control. It's heading towards an inevitable decline of plant and animal life, which will lead to famine and disease among the world's most populous communities and countries on this planet. It's already happening. Humans, through their own lack of knowledge and understanding, and by the consequences of their actions, are powerless to stop it from happening. So in essence, if you do not have the eyes to see what is happening, then you are blind to everything that is taking place in the world around you. Periodic mass extinctions have happened on Earth as indicated in the global fossil records. And according to at least one astrophysicist and scientist, it could be linked to a suspected rogue planet. How ironic that the new information that is being leaked to the public through various sources seem to indicate that an exoplanet or a binary star system is responsible for many of the events that took place in our Earth's history. The new information pertaining to a Planet 9, or one that resembles Nibiru, is more mysterious than its own origins. After all, not too many people know the true details of Nibiru and why it exists in our solar system. It all tends to coincide with what happened in the Earth's past and what is happening now. Dr. Mikao Kaku, a renowned physicist, has brought attention to the very real possibility of another mass extinction in our future. Now, he makes no mention of exoplanets as a determining factor in his interpretation, but the fact that our planet is in dire straits are emphasized in his comments in a way that many of us can understand and agree with. Let's listen in.
Well, so far, if you analyze the last few hundred years of life on the Earth, human activity apparently has wiped out 1.4% of all plant and animal species, and it is 100 to 1,000 times faster than normal because of human population, development, pollution, overharvesting. And if you take a look at a zoo, many of the zoo animals that our children love, we may find them going extinct. The tiger, for example, may go extinct. Many of the familiar zoo animals, bears, and realize that 18,000 species are at risk. Climate change is also involved in this thing. Independent of where climate change comes from, right, we see that the seasons are changing. Summers are getting longer. Winters are getting shorter on average. And we always say that the early bird catches the worm, but that assumes that the worm and the bird are synchronized. Many of these cycles, the natural cycles, are being thrown into disarray, meaning, for example, droughts in China going on right now, perhaps famine in certain areas. So we humans cannot be divorced from what's happening in the natural world. Well, evolution says survival of the fittest, and so far we humans are among the fittest. But we are also at the top of the food chain, the top of the pyramid, and it wouldn't take much to dislodge us from being at the top of the food chain.
In early 2016, scientists finally admitted that the so-called Planet 9 was causing our solar system to tilt, which may explain why the planets and constellations appear to be out of alignment. There is a general consensus that the spin axis is about 6 degrees off vertical. If their consensus is correct, then the assumption that an outside force is at play that is believed to be 10 times the mass of Earth may indeed be accurate. Astronomers think that at one time in the distant past, the so-called Planet 9 may have collided with another planet or object, possibly forming the asteroid belt, before sending the world into an oblong orbit. The new data collected by astronomers actually substantiates the late Zecharia Sitchin's research of what he called the 10th planet, or Planet X. Here then is some food for thought. In August of 2006, the International Astronomical Union downgraded Pluto's status from a planet to a dwarf planet. Pluto had been considered the 9th planet for as long as any of us can remember. So why would they suddenly decide to change its status? One plausible reason for the change was to allow the public to use the search term Planet 9 rather than Planet X, which already had a massive amount of information in the search archives. So what we have here is one more arsenal in the NASA book of tricks to divert your attention from what you need to know. Here is something you should know about the rogue planet. It wasn't the public who pegged the name Planet X. It was the government who named it long before they decided to change the planet status of Pluto. Once the links are connected, then things begin to become much clearer with respect to Planet X and the evidence that supports its existence. Here are the links that substantiate this claim. Over the last few years, scientists, top scholars, and universities, in conjunction with other peer-reviewed studies, have documented the fact that the moon, sun, and earth are not in their proper positions, as things may seemingly be unraveling in our solar system. Now, I've gotten emails and messages from many of you who, through your own personal observation, have stated that this is exactly what you are witnessing at this time. There has been a change in weather, seasons, tides, volcanic and tectonic activity. There is no doubt this is happening. If you frequent the Skywatch Media Facebook page, there are a number of video clips that document the tremendous changes that are now occurring. It's there for you to see if you care to take the time to watch and listen. For years, governments have been aware of an approaching celestial body, a brown dwarf star, and its 3,600-year cycle of devastation, as outlined in ancient Sumerian cylinder seals and other ancient documents. This excerpt from the Washington Post article dated December 30th of 1983 substantiates this claim. Moreover, Dr. Jerry Negenhauer, the IRAS chief scientist for California's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the director of the Polymer Observatory for the California Institute of Technology, said in an interview the following: "All I can tell you is that we don't know what it is." In 2011, secretive and coded military drills were run in preparation for what's coming. In fact, the Elenan drill involved testing a massive worldwide network that would connect and go live in real time in the event a major worldly disaster were to take place. To boot, agencies such as NASA have already prepped their on and off world personnel for such an event. They are now conducting these drills on a regular basis and have been doing so since 2011. An excerpt from a peer-reviewed paper by Lorenzo Lorio, a Cornell University astronomer, documents that the orbital pattern and tilt of the moon has changed, likely signifying the presence of a hidden celestial object. There it is. A Cornell University astronomer has admitted in this statement that they themselves are now looking into the possibility of Planet X type scenarios being real, as they themselves are dumbfounded by the data. So is it possible NASA is hiding something? What about all of the newly discovered planets in this mini solar system, which has been quietly announced just recently? What more can be said about what we know to be true? The proof is in the details. In closing, here is something that is strikingly odd that was recently posted to our Facebook page, which garnered a great deal of attention. On March 12th, the Cleveland EarthCam recorded a series of time frames, beginning at 8:05 p.m. and ending at 8:20. They appear to show the moon rising over Lake Erie, followed by an unidentified orb resembling a planet. There was considerable speculation as to what we had actually seen here. We know from investigating this phenomenon that it was not fabricated, because the frames are available for review in the EarthCam archives. So whatever it may actually have been was picked up by the camera and time-stamped to the digital archives. There was some thought that it could be a lens reflection, but we couldn't find multiple instances of this happening every time that the moon would rise from this particular location. Coincidentally, one of our Facebook followers happened to run across a video that was posted back on February 23rd of 2016, which is almost 1 year ago to the date, which shows the same thing in time-lapse. So there are definitely strange things happening on our planet that just cannot be fully explained. That is why it is so important to fully investigate and thoroughly examine everything that suggests the presence of a heavenly body. As I said, it's important to determine what is real and what isn't. This is how we can best present evidence to substantiate our findings of a rogue planet or a binary star system. The more we search for the truth, the better our chances of finding it, and then establishing a basis for its existence.
Now, the names Planet X, Planet 9, and Nibiru can be used interchangeably to describe this incoming system. And it used to be called the 10th planet before Pluto was demoted as an official planet. So that's just useful information to know in case you're trying to do an internet search on it. It goes by many names. Biblically, I think it's referred to as the Great Destroyer and relates to wormwood. Though I'll be the first to tell you, I don't claim to be an expert when it comes to the Bible. The Hopi Native Americans call the system the Red Kachina. For this video, the names Planet 9, Nibiru, and Planet X will be used by me interchangeably. Now, even though I'm referring to it as a single planet, I want everyone to know that it's actually one of multiple planetary bodies in its own mini solar system. So there is Planet X, as well as several other planetary bodies that orbit around its own solar system's dark brown dwarf star. It's basically all moving in its own mini solar system. So it's not just Planet X that's approaching. It's Planet X, its moons, and its dark sun or brown dwarf star. So when I call it by a single name, just know that I'm referring to Planet X as well as its surrounding planetary bodies, since they all travel together in one package. Now, at this point, you may be saying, well, mainstream science lies a lot. How can we believe that this thing is even real and not something that they made up? Mainstream science does lie a lot. That is true. But I would say in this case that the Planet X system is still a real thing, simply because it's not just mainstream science that is finding evidence for its existence. There's countless amateur astronomers who are finding evidence as well. These amateur astronomers don't have any kind of agenda to push. They're simply just reporting what they find to the public, as I'm sure any of you would if you came across such evidence. Even aside from scientific proof, there is historical evidence for Planet X. I won't go too far deep into it just because I don't want this video to be too long, but take a look at this video clip. It shows historical evidence as well as some other really good evidence.
We are seeing that there is something out there in the perimeter of our solar system that, when discovered, it will not only confirm our wildest suspicion, but answer the questions of which we are already coming up with answers to. Just wait until you hear this. At number 6, irregularities in Neptune and Uranus's orbit. Following the discovery of the planet Neptune in 1846, there has been considerable speculation that another planet exists beyond its orbit, a region we call the Trans-Neptunian region. The search was underway in the mid-19th century and culminated at the start of the 20th with Percival Lowell's quest for Planet X. Lowell proposed the Planet X hypothesis to explain apparent discrepancies in the orbits of the giant planets, particularly Uranus and Neptune, speculating that the gravity of a large unseen ninth planet could have perturbed Uranus enough to account for the irregularities. Clyde Tombaugh's discovery of Pluto in 1930 appeared to validate Lau's hypothesis, and Pluto was officially named the ninth planet. But in 1978, Pluto was conclusively determined to be too small for its gravity to affect the giant planets, resulting in a brief search for a 10th planet. The search was largely abandoned in the early 1990s. But in 2014, based on similarities of the orbits of a group of recently discovered extreme trans-Neptunian planets, astronomers hypothesized the existence of a super-Earth planet, 15 times the mass of the Earth and beyond 200 astronomical units, with the possibility of a high inclined orbit at some 1500 astronomical units. 1 astronomical unit being the distance between the Earth and the Sun. In 2016, further work showed that this unknown distant planet is likely on an inclined, highly eccentric orbit. There is clear evidence out there, but because the planet is so far away, constant observations are close to impossible. And at number 5, Sumerian text and depictions. How could a civilization dating back 5,000 years have had more advanced knowledge of astronomy than we have today? That is a question we have long lost the answers to, but the ancient Sumerians depicted and documented the first Nibiru some 3,500 years before the birth of Christ. One thing that is there for all to see and easily understood is of course the very famous depictions of Nibiru. This can't be denied, but incredibly we are yet to fully understand astronomy as the ancient Sumerians did all those thousands of years ago. Maybe we are overcomplicating our understanding of the sky, maybe we're looking too hard and too far that we are missing the obvious answers to the deepest questions. At number 4 on our list, Carlos Munoz Ferrada. His name is forever linked to Nibiru. Carlos Munoz Ferrada predicted with extraordinary accuracy numerous earthquakes in South America during the last century. He did this by making direct correlations between specific astronomical phenomena and various catastrophic earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. His most significant prediction regards the future arrival of a comet planet Nibiru. Ferrada calls it a comet planet because it has the size of the planet and the speed and elliptical orbit of a comet. He explains that this is due to the catastrophic approach of the comet planet, which will eventually pass 14 million kilometers away from Earth, accelerating the great geophysical change, which is already slowing and advancing. The Chilean astronomer specified the mass, velocity, orbital time, the trajectory, and the terrible consequences being produced by Nibiru on our solar system. He recognized Munoz Ferrada for his mathematical accuracy in regards to the earthquake that devastated the southernmost country in South America in 1939. The accuracy was to such an extent that Ferrada even set the date of the earthquake, which was published in the Journal of Conception. He was only wrong by a difference of 2 hours. The disaster claimed the lives of 60,000 people. He also announced the earthquakes of 1960 and 1985. There will come a time when Nibiru will be permanently visible as a second sun and in common conditions in broad daylight. This is why it was rediscovered in the 80s by the Orbiting Infrared Telescope, IRAS. Carlos did not mention when this planet would come close to the Earth, only that world events would intensify as the years go by. The closer the planet gets, the more cataclysmic the events. We still cannot see the planet. At number 3, cataclysms on Earth. At intervals throughout Earth's history, there has been world cataclysms or extinction-level events. From giants to dinosaurs and even 20-foot insects, the Earth has been under occupation for millions of years. And just like all other species that have become extinct, we will also come to an end at some point in Earth's history. The most recent cataclysm that we know of came 12,000 years ago, but unfortunately have no idea why it happened. We showed you in our previous selection that the Sumerian astronomers depicted the planet Nibiru on its way out of its highly elliptical orbit. So this could actually be the cause of the ancient event of 12,000 years ago, and the Sumerians were still able to view this planet on its way back to the outer solar system. The asteroid belt. The asteroid belt is a strange place. Located between planets Mars and Jupiter, it is thought by many that the asteroid belt was in fact once a planet that collided with the Nibiru system. Beginning in 1801, tiny rock and metallic objects were discovered to be orbiting the Sun at about this distance. Since then, several 100,000 large asteroids have been catalogued, and it is estimated there are more than 1 million large asteroids. Among catastrophists, there is substantial disagreement on the matter of this missing 5th planet from the Sun, in the place of which lies the Great Band, the debris of an enormous planet which the Sumerians knew as Tiamat. Ancient Sumerian texts indicate that Tiamat was struck by a large planet, which moved into its present orbit, and also created the Earth's moon and the asteroid belt. In his books, The 12th Planet in the Cosmic Code, Zecharia Sitchin outlines the celestial battle, as described in the Babylonian text Enuma Elish. The planet Nibiru, as it came into the solar system on its clockwise retrograde elliptical course, struck Tiamat, which was moving in its ordained counterclockwise orbit. According to Stitchin's well-known translations, one of Nibiru's satellites struck Tiamat first, followed by two more of its moons. Nibiru then itself, an enormous cosmic entity, struck Tiamat, smashing one half of the planet into pieces, which became what the Sumerians called the Great Band. The remaining half of the planet, which was struck by a smaller moon of Nibiru, was catapulted into a new orbit, along with a chunk of material which became its moon. According to the Enuma Elish, Tiamat's original moons were dispersed, many changing the direction of their orbits and rotations, creating Earth's moon and the asteroid belt. There is indeed evidence of this great cataclysm in our solar system today. And finally, number 1 on our list, Planet 9, Speck of Light Observed. In January of 2016, researchers at Caltech stunned the world by announcing the discovery of the Planet 9. A speck of light was observed, and astronomers and stargazers around the world are waiting in anticipation for more confirmation. Though the NASA researchers are stressing that this is only a speck of light that has been observed, they can confirm that they are on the verge of discovering the planet. So basically, the 200-year search for Nibiru is going to happen within 20 years. The object, which the researchers have nicknamed Planet 9, could have a mass of about 10 times that of Earth and orbit about 20 times farther than the Sun on an average than Neptune. It may take 20,000 Earth years to make one full orbit around the Sun. Have noticed some of the dwarf planets and other small icy objects tend to follow orbits that cluster together. By analyzing these orbits, the Caltech team predicted the possibility that a large, previously undiscovered planet may be hiding far beyond Pluto. They estimate the gravity of this potential planet may explain the unusual orbits of those Kuiper Belt objects. So there you have it.
So it's important to note that Planet X orbits a brown dwarf star or sun. And this sun is sometimes called Nemesis. It does not emit its own light. Any light coming from it would need to be reflected from our sun. Kind of makes you wonder why there's so many chemtrails being done right by the sun around sunrise and sunset. You know, when it's easiest to see objects around the sun before the sun becomes so bright white that no one can see what's by the sun. I would encourage you guys to research Nemesis and binary star systems. Just a quick clip for those who don't know what a binary star system is.
The sun in our solar system is similar to 90% of the solar systems in the Milky Way galaxy, all part of a binary star system containing two or more suns. The Planet X system can be considered a mini constellation consisting of our sun's twin, classified a brown dwarf star called Nemesis. This dark star is largely invisible, even with infrared, due to its surrounding red iron oxide dust clouds. Nemesis possesses at least 3 planets that revolve around it, Nibiru and Helion, both with moons, and Arbota. Though Nibiru travels along an elliptical-shaped orbit and enters our solar system approximately every 3,600 years, one by one crossing the orbits of our solar system planets, it does not revolve around our sun. In one of our previous videos, The Truth About Planet X, Connecting the Dots, I provided a 1990 video clip in which Zecharia Sitchin interviewed the supervising astronomer of the U.S. Naval Observatory, Robert S. Harrington, to discuss Harrington's recent discovery of the red planet X. Harrington set up a special telescopic observatory in New Zealand to track Planet X. But the renowned head of the observatory suddenly died mysteriously at age 50 of a rare form of cancer under suspicious circumstances.
And keep in mind too that the majority of solar systems actually are binary star systems. I don't think our solar system is an exception to this. The easiest way to track the Planet X system is through an infrared telescope, since it does not emit its own light and can only be seen during specific times at specific locations when it's in a specific position.
On April 24, 2006, Yowza.com broke the story on the South Pole Telescope, SPT, in Antarctica. The stated mission for the SPT really doesn't make a lot of sense because the same science could be done somewhere else at a fraction of the cost. So why build an expensive and sophisticated infrared telescope in such an inhospitable and inaccessible location as the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station in Antarctica? The answer is simple. This infrared 10-meter dish is the perfect instrument for observing an object rising up through the southern skies in infrared. And once they turned it on in January 2007, that's exactly what happened. A year after the SPT went online, the first of 3 highly credible disclosure videos were published on YouTube. The first, posted by Nibiru Shock 2012, was titled Nibiru Planet X Photos Taken January 2008. It was the first time the public had an opportunity to see an image of Planet X in deep space. And here you see a capture from the video, and the same capture again, but enhanced. In it, we see not just one object, but several. This is when we first learned that Planet X is actually a mini constellation of planets and moons, orbiting a small brown dwarf star, that is the binary twin to our own Sun. Those of you who were in high school and college during the 1970s may remember this second sun as Nemesis, the designation used by professional astronomers of the day to discuss the possibility that we live in a binary star system. Also, just as Sitchin and Harrington predicted, it would be rising up from the southern skies. But we wondered, could lightning strike twice with another disclosure video? On March 3, 2008, Nibiru Shock posted his second video titled Nibiru Planet X Update February 1, 2008. Well, what do you know, lightning did strike twice. And in that video we're told that Nibiru is now inside the Kuiper Belt, well beyond the orbit of Pluto. In this video, he tells us it is entering our system at an extremely shallow angle. This is consistent with our most current findings. In this second video, Nibiru Shock 2012 gave us a brilliant series of images that clearly show Planet X is a rather substantial mini-constellation of planets and moons, orbiting a brown dwarf star that is in turn orbiting our own Sun. Consequently, it does not look or move like anything humans have seen in over 3,600 years. He also told us that governments are afraid of a panic. Perhaps. But then again, remember Titanic rules. First class gets the boats, and steerage goes down with the ship. We're steerage. Why do we say this? Because after these 2 videos were posted, the Nibiru Shock 2012 channel was hijacked by disinformationalists, and the first 2 videos were labeled a hoax, and the channel was also corrupted. Having investigated the first 2 Nibiru Shock 2012 videos at length, we published our findings on April 6, 2008 in an article titled First 2 Planet X SPT Leaked Image Videos by Nibiru Shock 2012, now seen as highly credible. The reason we drew this conclusion was that these were very impressive disclosures, but the manner in which the channel was attacked showed clear evidence of a well-organized and well-funded use of disinformation tradecraft. Following publication of our report, Yowza.com came under heavy attack. Our site was hacked, and a slander campaign was leveled against us with brutal vitriol. In the process of defending ourselves, we filed DMCA complaints with YouTube, and to their credit, Google removed over 13 different attack videos and terminated 4 disinformation channel accounts.
So, we've already established that the Planet X system is having a significant effect on the tilt of the Earth, among other things being tilted, due to its gravitational pull, hence the position of the stars being off and the position of the sun at sunset being off. The sun is really being affected, guys. The sun has become hotter, more excited. It even appears white. And of course, mainstream science won't admit that, but it doesn't take a genius to walk outside and feel how much hotter the sun feels, or look up and see that it's white, and now it's impossible to stare at it for more than a second or two without being blinded. Now, they will admit the fact that the sun's magnetic field has increased by 130%, because they probably think that the average person won't put 2 and 2 together and figure out that there's an external catalyst that is responsible. And just recently, a huge sunspot was discovered on the sun. It was so big that many, including Unbiased and On the Fence, shout out to him by the way, were able to point out that the sunspot could actually be seen from Earth. So why am I harping on the sun? If y'all recall, in part 2 of my Mandela Effect link series, solar radiation from the sun has a direct impact on increasing the Schumann resonance. This isn't just speculation. This is according to a peer-reviewed study by Miller, published in the Journal of Consciousness Exploration and Research in 2013. Quote, "Research has shown that the Schumann resonances can modulate human health indicators such as blood pressure, cardiac and neurological disease, reaction time, neuroendocrine sensitivities, violence, and war. It also correlates with sunspot activity, mass human excitability, sociality, and climate change. Super Ertel in bursts of creativity correlate with solar activity examined the association between solar activity and oscillations in human creativity. His results showed that during increased solar activity, human creative activity also peaks. Tchaikovsky agreed that the influence on human nervous system is greatest during peaks of emitted energy by the sun and radiation of the earth. Chemical bonds are magnetic bonds formed between adjacent atoms through paired electrons having opposite spins and thus attracted magnetically," unquote. So just keep in mind, guys, that the solar activity of the sun impacts us on a deep level as well. Keep in mind that in addition to the Schumann resonance becoming erratic, the sun's magnetic field has increased by 130%. Now, this planet X is several times larger than Earth, so its gravitational pull on Earth is going to be huge. It's already tilted the Earth. Other planets in our solar system are already being affected by it. When the gravitational field is disrupted so dramatically, it's only common sense that our sun is going to become more active. It's only common sense that the Schumann resonance is going to become more and more erratic. So, looking at the chart, we can see that the main catalyst is the Planet X system. Planet X is causing the sun to become so excited it appears white, and it's starting to emit more solar radiation and have greater sunspot activity. In addition to Planet X itself, the sun is affecting the Schumann resonance and causing it to become erratic. And again, the Schumann resonance influences the magnetic field, which directly impacts our brain waves, which in turn alters our reality or perception of reality, causing a lot of us to experience the Mandela effect. So, before we believe the CERN narrative being pushed, or even the flat earth narrative that is being pushed on people, please consider this alternative theory. Flat earthers, wouldn't it be safe to say that if the government wanted to stop people from looking into what's going on in our solar system, that all they'd have to do is start a movement that says that there's no such thing as spherical planets that can enter our solar system and cause all kinds of changes? And I don't want to get into a debate on this with you guys. All I'm asking is for those who believe in flat earth to just consider what the answer to that question would be. And if you haven't checked out part 1 and part 2 of my Mandela Effect link series, please do so. This is the final part of my Mandela Effect link series, and I thank you so much, guys, for listening, especially those of you who watched all 3 of the videos. One more thing, Dr. Lupo has a really interesting video that talks about the connection between the Mandela Effect, Planet X, and electromagnetic or magnetic changes. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. I encourage you to visit his channel as well as the Skywatch News channel. And I will put all the links below and links to the reference articles used in this video. So have a great day, guys, and take care.